For deeper insight into the human and political implications of these moves, we're joined by Ahmed Khattab, a political researcher and instructor of international relations at Georgetown University, specializing in migration, diaspora politics, citizenship, and the MENA region. Thank you, Ahmed, for joining us. Ahmed, let's begin with the
Thank you.
rhetoric itself. How do you see Trump's attacks on the Somali immigrants fit into the broader pattern of nativist messaging that has shaped his political strategy for the past decade?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. I think Trump's rhetoric is, in fact, an escalation. I think it is dangerous. It sets a dangerous precedent in terms of the highest executive seat in the country, using rhetoric that very much inflames and adds a lot of tension towards an already tense situation. The problem is going to be not only how Trump continues to word his thoughts and put them in bigger perspective when it comes to addressing Americans, the electorate, and quite frankly, the whole world, but also how those on the receiving side, in terms of his constituency, but also immigrants, politicians on both sides, Republicans and Democrats, interact with those with such rhetoric, with those words.
Well, in this instance, he targeted the Somali community, which is quite large in Minnesota, and it's the most established, one of the most established diaspora communities there and in the US. What does this targeting mean when it comes to integration, local trust, and the long-term community cohesion, given what ICE has also been doing across the United States?
It's quite interesting because it seems like the US president here has some trouble in separating between what could be considered as broad policies by the ruling group or the Republicans who agree with Trump uh, within a certain ideological framework and sort of personal tensions or personal quarrels and battles that the president himself has put himself in with others. But Minnesota specifically and the Somali community there are home to Ilhan Omar, the Democratic congresswoman, who for so many times on a personal basis, Trump has attacked in his posts on social media. And so it's really difficult to see that these are two separate issues. I think they're quite connected. And it's going to be interesting to see
So do you think
how those dynamics are going to play forward.
Yeah, do you think that this could possibly, given the rhetoric that the top level of the administration is taking, this could possibly increase the xenophobia, racism, and many other aspects when it comes to the average American?
Well, I think the US has been within this sort of spiral of polarization for
Mm,
quite a while now.
mm,
But it's been at least a decade, if not more, of a severely polarized political scene. I think this rhetoric does not help de-escalate such a situation. In fact, it does quite the opposite. And I think we could see sort of back and forth in terms of a higher tone of wordage used, uh, perhaps even acts that are not going to be conducive or helpful towards sort of
mm.
achieving a greater societal cohesion and strength in the years to come.
Well, Trump's attack on the Somali community comes in the heels of the shooting that took place in Washington that targeted, the National Guard there, and the person suspected was an Afghani national who had passed multiple vetting layers and also, was seeking asylum and was granted this asylum. How does this, tension between the rhetoric and evidence affect the policy making?
Well, I think it's important because it calls into question what gets to be considered as vetting. So, in other words, is vetting strictly a security matter? Does it end the moment the person exits their home country and enters the United States? The more recent reports on the Afghani national who did this attack suggest that this person became increasingly resentful, increasingly alienated from his society, and pretty much feeling betrayed by the American state first and foremost, but also by a society that has not really, perhaps in his opinion, helped him
Mm.
maintain a lifestyle or maintain a certain standard of living that he was living back in Afghanistan and was expecting to at least be close to when it comes to the United States. So I think here what we can really start to look into is how does vetting change conceptually in light of such attacks, right? Do immigrants really need to be just left there once they arrive to the United States? Or is there something else that needs to happen in order to ensure that they integrate successfully in a way that also takes into consideration social and economic factors?
Well, I mean, there's also reports about the Afghan national that basically state that he was a CIA asset in Afghanistan as well, who sought asylum in the US. Obviously, this has raised some eyebrows with some people living in the United States. What's your take here? And do you think that this played into maybe the vetting process of having been granted asylum there?
Well, yes, I think that's actually part of the problem, that he was part of some sort of special forces squad. He had a certain level of prestige back in Afghanistan. He has a family, and he probably considered himself lucky to be able to escape or leave Afghanistan in 2021, right? I think the problem here continues to be that this specific individual and others like him face this problem, that once they arrive to the United States, they have a certain expectation in mind which falls flat. They do not find what they expect. They perhaps do not find enough support and help from the US government. For quite honestly, they might feel that it is indebted to them, right? So, in other words, they have served with the United States and Afghanistan. They have taken major risks for sure, no doubt. And so they expect some sort of appreciation or payback when they arrive in the United States, and they don't find that. And I think that that creates this resentment spiral. In addition to, of course, factors that could be within the United States itself. The United States might be much more focused on the vetting process for those who are considered outsiders, non-citizens, those who wish to seek asylum or get a green card. But perhaps there isn't as much interest in looking at what kind of environments could be receiving or serving as a receiving end for such individuals. And it looks like the more recent reports are headed towards a conclusion that some level of radicalization might have happened to that individual after they've arrived to the United States.
Well, America has always, basically made itself out to look like the place where dreams basically come true and the American dream and so forth. But given the recent policies, it may deter people from immigrating into the US. What do you think are the consequences when it comes to America's reputation if they continue to target migrants, whether they go in there legally or not, since now they're revoking, visas from people who the president chose to target, single out, like the Somalis?
Well, I think there's a lot of lashing back. If we first of all separate the two issues, in my own opinion, I personally feel that Trump feels attacked as the US president on a personal level in terms of what he promised his constituency, the level of security and the level of strength and image that he tried to create of a strong United States. I feel like this attack for him was slightly humiliating to some extent. And so a lot of this is really this anger and this rage that might be there. But on a broader level, I think the issue really here is the problem with how those individuals who have lived for so many years in the United States, they become naturalized through a 5-year process or a 3-year process if they marry an American citizen. And we're talking about decisions that have suspended things as immediate as oath ceremonies, right? So these are individuals who have done everything. They have stayed in the United States. They have passed all these tests. They have been through multiple vetting processes, and they were going to go for their oath ceremony, which is essentially the last sort of item on the list for them to become officially American. Now, on a social level, they've been American for years, right? So they have lived in the United States. They definitely speak the language. They do some kind of work. They engage with the community as well. And so it becomes highly problematic here to see so many individuals who are definitely going to be in limbo. Yes. Or going to be in a situation that is very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, well, hopefully the situation will work out for everyone who's there. But we're out of time, so thank you, Ahmed Khattab, for joining us and for your analysis and insights here. Tonight, we saw a Europe anxious about American reliability and an America increasingly shaped by hardline politics at home. Both conversations led to the same question: who gets protected and who gets abandoned when political strategy overtakes principle? I'm Morsi, and this was In Focus. Good night.